When someone asks me, hey Kev, what fruit should I grow if I'm a first-time gardener? I always answer the same thing: strawberries. That's because unlike most fruits, you don't have to have an orchard to do it. You can grow them in a really small space. I don't know anyone who doesn't like them, and they are relatively easy to grow if you know what you're doing. So in this video, we're gonna show you how to grow them in a vertical tower from start to finish. When we're talking growing strawberries, you could of course try to grow strawberries from seed. I've seen it done before, I haven't done it myself. Most people grow from this weird little alien looking thing right here, which is called a bare root strawberry. But not all bare root strawberries are created equal. In fact, there are 3 different major types of strawberries that you can select when you are purchasing a bare root, and the one you choose really impacts how it grows over the season. The first type is gonna be June bearing. It's the most common, and you'll see this at the grocery store all of the time, but the name is very self-explanatory. It produces most of its strawberries in that June window. The flowers will start to form in spring. As long as temps are above about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, those flowers form, they open, they start developing into fruit, and you get it all in June. So if you want a flush of strawberries at one time, that would be the choice for you. Next up, you have everbearing, and it's not a perfectly accurate name in this case. You'll get some spring harvests, you'll get some midsummer harvests, you might get some late summer and fall harvests, so it's certainly more spread out over the season, everbearing. But these harvests tend to be a bit smaller in overall yield. So you're not gonna get as big of strawberries, and you may not get as many overall by weight, but it's very consistent over the course of a season, and they tend to produce no matter what, as long as the temperature is not too cold or too hot. So anywhere between about 45 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit, and they will continually produce strawberries. The final type is called a day neutral strawberry. This is a seascape variety, one of my absolute favorites. And it's called this because it doesn't really matter what time of year, so spring, summer, fall, and it doesn't really matter too much what temperature. It's gonna reliably produce strawberries. So it's an even more flexible version of the everbearing type. This is my selection, again, called Seascape, a wonderful variety. Let's figure out how to plant this weird looking alien. So to plant these well, we're going to use a vertical system. This is a Greenstalk garden. I have a fully built one over here. The reason they're so good for strawberries is because strawberries want to spread out. They'll do something called throwing out runners, which is a stem that will come out, hit the ground, and create another version of what you see here. And so by planting in something like a Greenstalk, it won't really have the ability to do that. It's gonna just throw a runner out into the air and has nowhere to root. So that helps control some of that issue that you see with strawberries, but also everything loves to eat a strawberry. I like to eat them, bugs like to eat them, birds like to eat them. And so by having this overhang here and having the strawberries sort of hang in the air, there's a lot less issue for them to get hit by your pill bugs or your earwigs or any other sort of pest. I can also rotate this and get a lot of different access to sun, because strawberry is a plant that really wants sun access. I can water this easily, and really most importantly, I can grow about 42 strawberry plants, which will produce far more than 42 strawberries, a bunch of strawberries per plant, in about a footprint of 2 square feet by 4 feet tall. Let's plant our bare root strawberries. This is for sure the most finicky part of the process. There's some things you can really do wrong here, which will cause this to die back, and you will have spent some money on basically a weird looking weed type of thing that doesn't produce any juicy fruit. So soil, what I'm using here in this particular case is actually Fox Farm Strawberry Fields. Not sponsored or anything, it's just the highest quality organic potting mix in my particular area that I could grab, but it's kind of funny that it has the same name. So I'm just gonna fill this up. You want some sort of fertility in this mix, because I'm not even gonna add any fertilizer. I'm just gonna fill this up, fill the Greenstalk tier. So we're filled up, but the part you can go wrong, it's understanding the bare root strawberry, becoming one with it, merging your own consciousness with the strawberry. So let's take a really close up look. What do you see here? Well, all this stuff down here, that is the root. Those are the roots. And then what you see where the roots meet this part right here, this is called the crown. The crown must never be fully buried. You know, this is where the crown begins right here. It kind of ends right there. And you know it ends there because you're starting to see new growth, this green section here coming out. You don't want to plant more than about halfway up the crown. Never violate that rule. You can get something called crown rot. Strawberries are gone, you're sad again, right? So what you want to do is bring it straight down. You don't even need to really fan it out too much if you don't want to. You can just kind of pop it straight down. And in this case, I'm just going to move some of this soil aside. Now watch very closely. I'm not getting too precious here. I'm just going straight down in. I'm thinking since I want this to overhang, I'm actually thinking maybe I'll bias this a little bit closer towards this part of the pocket, and then in I go. Now, this is where you can really mess up a strawberry planting, and I've done it before myself, so avoid this. First of all, check. Did I bury the crown? No, it's about halfway up, I would say, so that's looking pretty good. But the soil is not really hugging those roots. The soil's kind of loosely around the roots right now, not a really good situation for this newly transplanted strawberry. Remember, it's a bare root. It doesn't really want to be this way. We made it be this way because we grew it this way, and then we pulled it out of the soil and shipped it over to me or to you. So this plant wants to have soil all around it. So what you need to do is make sure that you do that. So here we go. I'm just gonna go ahead and compress. Normally you do this part when you planted them all out, but I'll just show you. Just come in, nice healthy water. And I personally am paranoid, so I'll double check it. Did I bury the crown? No, I'm in a good spot here. So I've hugged that soil around. That's probably one of the biggest tips to preventing a bare root from just dying off once you transplant it. So let me get the rest of these in and I'll show you what to do after they're planted. We are planted up, my friends, and I will just really quickly explain how this particular system works. Of course, you could DIY a system like this, even with PVC pipe and some soil, but this one's nice. I mean, it's really handy. So what you do is you basically put a tier on, you put this little water diverter on, so as the water falls down the middle of the column in the future, it'll just spread out nice and evenly, and then you just offset by 1 and stack it on like that. So let's get this up. So the last piece to go on is just the top, and this is where you would fill it up to water the whole system at once. If there was ever one con to a vertical gardening system, whether you're growing strawberries or not, it's that it's in the air. So the sun hits just one side of it, right? And as the sun moves, it'll hit some of it, but like this side over here is gonna rarely get sun, which is why you can spin it. So after planting, there are some things you need to do. One thing I do in general is probably give it like a half turn every couple days just to make sure all the strawberries are getting light. But let's talk about care before these things start to put out those juicy straws. If you're growing everbearing strawberries in a system like this, what you want to do is remove all the flowers that will start to emerge. So you're going to get some green growth coming out. I'll see some flowers, some really young ones. Clip those off for the first 4 to 6 weeks. Why? Because you don't want the plant trying to develop like one measly little strawberry. You really want it putting out a lot of nice green growth, and then you can let it rip after about 6 to 8 weeks or so. If you are growing June bearing, well, there's 2 schools of thought. One would be just let it go, see what happens, see what you get in that first year. The other, which is more extreme, would be to actually remove all the flowers in the first year, let it set up for the next year. That's why I really like growing these day neutrals or these everbearing, because I don't have to go through the suffering and the pain and the emotional turmoil of waiting a whole year to get my strawberries. The other thing you'll want to do, remember I said strawberries produce runners. Well, in this case, the runners are going to run off the system. So they're very easy to clip, and you'll be able to tell it's a runner because there'll be a stem coming out, kind of going down like this, and then there'll be another little crown looking thing developing. And then you can just clip that off. Why? Because it has nowhere to attach, so it's just wasted energy for the plant. So we'll check in once these size up and show you what's going on. But before we check in, I still have some Bareroot strawberries left, so I'll show you what I do with these to make sure that I'm covered in the system. So my cluster of extra berries, I have like 5 or 6 of them. So what I like to do is give myself a little insurance. So I will not be as precious about how I plant, but I'll just bring it in and throw it in a pot like this. And this is basically my insurance. This is my holding zone. These are gonna root up. They'll be a little tangled up, but that's fine. You can just separate them later on. The other thing that's nice about this is when these ones shoot out runners and new growth, you can actually propagate strawberries fairly simply and create your own bare roots for next season. So you can keep growing these beautiful seascapes or whatever variety you decide. So this is kind of what I do, and I'll just fill a little touch more soil. So if one of those dies out front, it's no big deal because I can just steal from this little pot. So I'll finish this up and we'll see how the strawberries are doing in a few weeks. It's been a few weeks since we transplanted into our vertical tower, and I have to say I'm pleasantly surprised by how many of the strawberries took. In fact, I only see 2 down low that didn't take so well. So I'll replace those in a moment, but let me show you what to do at this stage of growth. You can see we've got a decent amount of leafy growth coming out of almost all of these strawberry starts, and we're even starting to see some early flowers. Sometimes they're not open, sometimes those white petals with that yellow center are open. I'm gonna remove all of those at this stage. It's early April right now, good time to do it, whether it's everbearing or June bearing varieties. So come in with some snips, and let's locate one of these right here. I see this one right here. And so you can tell this is gonna be a flower because you can actually see the little bit of white petal inside. Of course, you can also wait until that opens up. You wanna come down all the way to the base of that and just clip that off. And same with this right there. Then there's also some dead material you might want to remove. So let's see if I can find one here. This is a good example. So right here, all of this material here, this is all just dead. May have been from the transplant, but I personally think it's a good idea to clean this up. It makes it look a lot better, but also then the plant just doesn't have to support something that is no longer really serving it whatsoever. It also helps keep it nice and tidy. So I don't see a runner right now. I'm just gonna keep on pruning these flowers off. But what you would do is you'd trace it back to where it emanates from the crown of the strawberry and you'd give it a nice snip. And that's really all you have to do at this phase. So once I replace those strawberries that died with the ones that I potted up and put in the greenhouse a little bit ago, always why you should have backups. We're just gonna check in once we've got a lot more leafy growth. Don't really need to fertilize much. Just keep watering and you're good to go. It has been a few weeks and not only is there more green growth, but there are a ton of baby strawberries and there's even a few ripe strawberries. So at this point, it's time to start enjoying the literal fruits of your labor. So take a look at this one down here. It's starting to get red. And what I do, because sometimes it'll look red and it's actually not ripe yet, is I give it a bit of a squeeze. And if it's just a bit soft to the touch, then I come through and harvest. And when I harvest, I get a little bit particular about it. I harvest the stem all the way down to where it comes off of the plant. And then I just trim that off to eat. And it's just so good. I like them a little bit tart, and that sweetness comes in at the end. So enjoy your strawberries, but there are some things you have to know to care for them throughout the fruiting season. So you'll notice this coming out. This is a strawberry runner. What it wants to do, because it doesn't think it's growing in a vertical system, it thinks it's growing on the ground. It wants to do this, and then roots will come out right here, and then strawberries will start coming out right here, and then it'll keep repeating this process. I don't want it to do that. Think about how much energy it is wasted trying to do this. It could be spending that, give me these juicy strawberries. So I cut this all the way down to the base. Now, you have the opportunity, if you want to cut right there, right before that runner spot, and root this in water, and you can actually kind of prep some strawberries for next season or a different part of your garden. But remove the runners, keep this well watered. You don't have to do too much fertilizing at this point in time. If you're growing them in a Greenstalk or a portable vertical system, you can just move them to a protected area because they will die in the frost. You'd have to reset your strawberries. Or if you're in a warm climate, just leave them where they are. And that's strawberries in a vertical system. If you like the Greenstalk, we just stocked some pretty cool new exclusive colors on our store. It's my favorite current method for growing strawberries because I can just harvest them at ease, just like this. And with that said, guys, good luck in the garden and keep on growing.